welcome to Dice and Demons. I'm Emma, and in this video we're going to be talking about a subject that is perhaps not as lighthearted as most of the other stuff that we are doing here on this channel, but I still think it's really important. And that is gatekeeping and, well, hatred basically, and on the opposite side of that, inclusivity in our hobby. So lately I have seen quite a lot of different things going on on social media where people are either closing their accounts because they just can't deal with all the comments that they get, hateful comments, or people taking down their posts where they show off what they have painted and stuff just because they get so much negativity that it's just not, it's just not worth it. And of course, I think that's terrible. No one should feel like they can't participate in the hobby, and no one should feel persecuted for posting hobby stuff. And I have also been on the receiving end of some not so nice stuff in the past. Um, some of it is not as bad. People writing like. I think your model looks terrible, or I hate your color scheme, or whatever. And it's like, I don't really see the need for people posting stuff like that. If you don't like something, but it's not hurting anyone. It's just, it's a model, right? But sure, if you really feel like posting stuff like that, then by all means do. I, it doesn't take my enjoyment of the hobby away, but that is perhaps also because I get, which I'm really privileged in that way. I get a lot of positive response as well. But let's say I posted something and the only person who commented just said, "Oh, that looks awful. It looks like you painted it with your elbow. You shouldn't be in this hobby. The colors are all wrong. You put the colors on too thick. It just looks awful." I would be so disheartened, and I would probably never post something again, and I would probably also feel a little bit hesitant going into, let's say, a local hobby store or a hobby club, showing off what I have done or bringing my models to a game, just out of fear of people ridiculing me. And we all come into this hobby with different skill sets and different interests and different abilities to spend money or spend time or whatever, and I think there should be a room for everyone to enjoy the hobby regardless of where they're coming from. I have also been on the receiving end on something a bit worse than just, criticism for how I paint stuff. I have both received a death threat from someone who thought that it would be really awesome if once the Russians were done with the Ukrainian people, they could come and kill all the gays in Europe, and I should definitely be on that hit list. Which, it's that was not a very nice comment to get in the inbox, I would say. However, it's not something that I'm not afraid or anything. I think it's just some person writing angry messages on social media, and I don't. It's been quite a while since then, and no one has actually been here to shoot me dead. But still, it was not a very nice thing to read. I have also had people write to me that I should consider killing myself, or not even just considering I should just do it, because my existence was totally worthless and perhaps even bad for the entire, I don't know, the world or the hobby community. Or I don't really know. I have not actively went out of my way to seek a dialogue with those people, because I don't really think, I don't know, maybe it would be a good thing if you have the energy for it to actually say, why do you feel the need to write stuff like that? Could we have a discussion instead of just one-off hateful messages? I don't know. I don't really think I'm in a headspace where I want to do that, but if other people have the energy for it, I think that's admirable. But anyway, the whole thing about gatekeeping, if you don't really know the term, it's something like people saying, okay, in order for you to participate in any sort of community, you need to meet these standards. You need to know all this stuff before you can enter into this community and take part in it. And in some cases, of course, I mean, having a high barrier or high expectations, that's completely reasonable. I mean, we don't want just anybody walking in from the streets into a hospital and saying, oh, I would like to be a doctor, and people be like, oh, sure, now you are a surgeon, right? That's not the way we want stuff like that to work. But this is a hobby, and I just don't really understand the gatekeeping stuff. um, this is a social hobby. It is for me, at least. I know some people just enjoy it on their own, and that's totally fine as well, of course. But for a lot of people, this is a very social hobby, both on social media and in real life. And so, why on earth would you want to keep people away from that? I think the more people who are part of this hobby, the more people we have to play with, the more people we have to paint with, the more people we have to just share our enthusiasm for the hobby with, which is really cool. Also, if you look at it from more of I don't know, a um, hobby business standpoint, I mean, the more people who are into this hobby, the more people are supporting both the bigger companies in the industry and the smaller companies and independent creators. And the more stuff is available for all of us to look at and enjoy and buy and paint and play with. I mean, how is that not a good thing? I just don't really understand. Um, I do understand, however, if people do something that you think is perhaps wrong in some sense, something about a topic and people represent it in a way that's not totally correct. I understand you can get like the impulse to correct them. For instance, I mean, this is not related to the hobby industry or the hobby community at all, but I used to be a tour guide, and I had also previously worked at a historical museum with the which focuses on the Viking Age. I'm from Denmark, so the Viking Age was a big thing here, and we have museums all over the place with Vikings and stuff. So it's really cool and it's nice. And I did these tours, and one of the questions I got asked quite a lot from people who are not from Scandinavia was like, so okay, you have the Vikings, right? Do you have them in reservations? Where are they? And it's like, to someone who knows about the Viking Age and someone who knows about Scandinavian history, that's perhaps a silly question. I mean, no, we don't have Vikings in reservations. Being a Viking was more of sort of an occupation, more like being a pirate, than it has anything to do with, being part of a specific ethnic group. And when the Viking Age ended, it just sort of gradually turned over to the medieval culture, and so the descendants of the Vikings are just the people living in Scandinavia and Great Britain and stuff today. So to me, it might seem like a silly question, and I could have definitely just laughed at the people asking me that, or just told them, oh no, of course not. I mean, don't you know anything? um but obviously they didn't know this. It was a genuine question, and so um I answered them with the explanation I just gave you. And I chose to see it not as, not as a way for me to make fun of people's ignorance, because why should they know? They probably know all sorts of things that I have no idea about, right? And I mean, it's cool I mean, they have chosen to go on a tour, learning about the Vikings, learning about a culture in a time they didn't know a lot about, and they were courageous enough to show that they didn't really know a lot about this and ask questions. I mean, isn't that something that should always um, be treated with respect? I mean, I'm not a saint. I can also laugh at things that I consider, stupid questions and stuff. But I really, really try to do my best to actually, look at the intentions. If the intention is to make fun of somebody else's culture, that's not cool, and that can definitely be something you should stop and tell them that's not okay. But if people are genuinely curious and respectful and they want to know more, why not try to embrace that and help them along? And even though it's a sort of a beginner's question, and you think, oh, isn't that obvious? Well, no, it's not. No, it's not. And if it were obvious, people would not be asking the question, I would assume. So I think Gatekeeping in this hobby, it's just awful, and I hate it when people get really nasty comments, because this should be a space for all of us to enjoy, particularly since from my experience the hobby community has a lot of people who are vulnerable in some sense or another, like myself. I'm dealing with mental health issues on a regular basis, and why would you push people who might be vulnerable, um, and tell them nasty things when it's something that is so. I don't mean to say the hobby is not important, because the hobby is really important to me, but how an individual approaches miniature painting on his or her own models, that's not important to anybody else. You should just, I mean, even if you think, oh my god, they should thin their paint, they should add some washes, they should learn how to dry brush, they should learn how to build models and remove mold lines and drill out the barrels of the guns and all those things. If people don't aren't asking you for criticism, but they're just happily showing off what they did, I think we should, at the very least, not discourage them, and hopefully also encourage them. You know, say, "Oh, that looks cool," and "I like that shade of green," or "It's a cool color scheme," or "Yeah, I know building that model. It's just." Whew, it's a lot of work, because there are lots of tiny bits. You know, good on you for getting started, and I hope to see an entire army like that someday. Something like that. I mean, you can always find something positive to bring to someone else's work. You know, this is a creative, artistic hobby. There is no right or wrong way to do it anyway. So why not just, encourage people? So I know this is a bit of yeah, a bit of a heavier subject, and I'm a little bit anxious actually about posting this video, because I don't really know what to expect. I don't know if people will then, get back to me with more nasty comments. But yeah, now I'm throwing it out there, and I really hope that we can all try to get better at not gatekeeping, and try to get better at encouraging people, even though they might not be um, at a very high skill level, or they have just started the hobby. I mean, just say something nice to people, and if you don't have something nice to say, well, why say anything at all? That's uh, yeah, as I said before, I'm no saint. I can also make mistakes and perhaps say something that hurts someone, even though it wasn't my intention. But I mean, we can all just try a little bit, perhaps, to be careful and be um, not be oblivious if someone else is being treated unkindly. I mean, I think this should be a hobby where we treat each other well. And then instead of spending our time debating gatekeeping and nasty comments, we should spend the time, debating the best shade of pink to put on a Space Marine shoulder pads or something. That would be really cool. Yeah. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to hearing what you think in the comments, and yeah, let me know what you think. And please try to remember, be nice to yourself, to each other, to me, to the community at large. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.